Black Power Media, and our host for the day is Dr. Jared Paul, and we got Kalanji Jama Changa. Let's get it, y'all.
Yeah. Hold up, man. You know what? I'm hosting today. It's a takeover, not a makeover. We about to do this just like this. What's happening, world? RemiX morning show is in the building. We live and direct. Shout out to the ear doctor over there. Ear doctor spinning. He working because of the fact that he know coming soon it would be the Biggie versus I forgot my name.
Wow, big pun.
Big pun.
Dang,
I was about to say,
supposed to be on my team too.
I was about to say Fat Joe. Hey, I was about to say Fat Joe. Fat Joe beard keep popping up in my head for some reason. It messes up my thinking. Look. It's definitely not a good look. Anyway, what's happening, y'all? RemiX morning show in the building. Dr. J, what it look like, man?
Hey, it looks like this. That's what it is, though. That's what it is right here. So let the folks know. Word is we'll have improved flyers at some point, but just for now, just folks know that has been set. We are doing a versus between Biggie and Big Pun. I already got my 10 tracks. Actually, I got 13, 14 tracks set.
Okay.
So we'll have to collaborate and huddle up and
we gotta narrow it down. I got about 15
arrangement.
Yo,
we gotta line them up.
And we love Biggie
going up against a DJ.
I'm just saying, what's that song by De La? It's so easy. It's gonna be so easy.
Listen, man,
I think so.
It's fun.
Listen, when you have
hip hop heads are gonna know better though.
Listen, when you got Kamal Franklin as your partner on some hip hop shit, them no worry, we have no problem, brother. It's not about
Kamal just along for the ride on that one.
Totally.
He's the Brooklyn representative.
Listen, only reason he know that Biggie's from Brooklyn is because the funeral march came through Brooklyn. That's the only reason. I don't even think he was listening to Biggie back then. In fact, I think he was listening to Young MC. Shout out to Kamal and Young MC for keeping it going over there. We have no worries over
clearly, the reason he's late, though, by the way, if folks don't know, is because he's hanging with 50 Cent right now. In the dead rapper / actor society, because I know we not this isn't really a story for us today, but I'm sure that since 50 was out there dissing Michael K. Williams on social media, that I'm sure Kamal was like, my man, word up, Queens represent, and they probably got in the car together and they riding around. That's probably
50 need to get slapped for that one, man. That was like real distasteful. You know what I'm saying?
My man's name wrong.
Where Brooklyn at?
Yeah, exactly.
Yo.
What's up, everybody?
Hey, man, what's happening, man?
Riding around
your camera look like
dissing Michael K. Williams.
Yeah, your camera look like the ghost of Christmas past right now, man. What's going on, G?
I like your background. What you got? Like some fake sheets hung up back there or something
I'm on
a whole shirt.
I'm on the road. Go ahead.
Background thing.
Good. There's 8 pairs of your old boxer shorts sewn together.
Why you got them?
I was about to say something, but anyway.
Real quick, Jared, 50 don't care, man. 50's like, I'm promoting my show. Yeah, he died.
Yeah,
People die every day, B.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, he is a sucker for that. I think that sometimes, man, I'm cool with controversy and all that. You know what I'm saying? But it's like, that's a serious matter, just period, for people who have addictions alone. You know what I mean? That alone is an issue. So I don't, some shit you can kind of keep to yourself, man. So that's just my thoughts on that dude with that, But
yeah, apparently I didn't know this, but according to that story, they had a little feud some years ago. So he might not already feel the best kind of way about Michael K. Williams, and 50 came in the game I mean, if folks don't remember, 50 came in the game talking trash about everybody. So like he has not cared about forever. So you know, but but I agree, you know, that I mean, look, I would also agree. We've also grown. We've also gotten older. So one might think, you know, you could slow your roll a little bit, given the circumstance. But you know, 50, you know,
hey man, you know, hey man, that goes with it. And now for the Remix Morning Show with real shit, where real things go on here.
Anyway,
what else we got popping, man? You know what I'm saying? Good morning, everybody. Greetings.
Yes, indeed. Good morning.
Salutations.
Good morning.
You know what I'm saying?
We are, unfortunately, just so folks are clear, unfortunately, Kim Brown was not able to make it this morning. She is walking the dog.
Yes, shout out to the dog.
Literally and metaphorically, you know, she's walking these dogs that represent woo. You know what I mean? She's you know, so she'll be back tomorrow, and in the interim, we will do our thing, and hold down this boom bap breakfast,
like we do, like we always do around this time. So what's going on around here? Yeah, man.
And I hope the folks are noticing we should all be looking a little crisper this morning. I think, you know, with the enhanced with the enhanced broadcast quality, I think, you know, we should be looking a little fresher, a little flyer. I hope that's working out. I am not in the chat, so I won't know, but you know, Kamal's, you know, fuzzy screen notwithstanding, I hope that is
why
the
is
case.
It fuzzy?
I don't know.
That's another why
you got white.
It does look fuzzy.
Look like a lot of.
You got clean the lens or something. Oh, there it is. There it is. That's
okay.
gross.
Okay. It actually,
but it might have worked.
It did look like it worked.
I got special spit. Yeah, you got special spit. What am I saying?
That's gross.
Too much information.
Yeah, and the sad thing about it, it did clear up. But you had like
it worked.
Toe prints on there. What's going on, man? Anyway,
hey,
a lot of things camera get used for, you know.
Since we
clearly don't want to know, bro.
Yeah, anyway. Since we clearly don't have anything better for this opening moment, and it's not on the run sheet. But have you all seen this latest Eyes on the Prize joint? I think one of us brought it up. Somebody brought it up on the remix the other day, and I went and started watching it. Have any of you seen this?
I've not seen. I've heard of it, but I've not seen it. Who's in it? And maybe give the premise. What is this like? An updated, supposedly?
The way
rights fighters, or
on the one hand, I like how they've done it. I mean, it starts with sort of a retrospective on the original Eyes on the Prize and what that was, and reminding people what that was and the importance of that, and with some classic original footage from back in the day. And then they kind of do a slick job. I got to really get more into it. I wasn't prepared for this morning with this, but maybe for tomorrow we should all do some homework, because it's kind of fascinating. And then just stylistically, now I'm not getting into the politics. Okay. And then they go back and forth from today's generation with some flashbacks to the original. Patrice Cullors is there. Was one name that I recognized. But also Philip Agnew was there as well. Somebody that, you know, I know that we've worked with a little bit, are working with a little bit. And off the top, those are the only names I recognize or remember recognizing. And then they seem to be doing, you know, talking about, you know, when they first saw Eyes on the Prize, the original, what it meant to them. And then, no, now it is to me clearly meant to say, here is the new generation. And I do sense some attempt, as was the case with the original, The Hate That Hate Produced, and Mike Wallace and them years before, with we want to present the version of the struggle that we want you to adopt. Now, I don't know if they've accidentally slipped in some Malcolms, you know what I mean, that messed up the Hate That Hate Produced plan back in the day, where they didn't plan for Malcolm to be, you know, so well received. But I think that's, you know, anyway. So anyway, I think it's something that we should, you know, and those.
Where's it playing on? What's it playing on?
Well, I saw it was an HBO Max thing, but I saw it. It's on YouTube though. But I mean, it's on YouTube, and so I would encourage people to check it out, and I would like very much to see what we and the BPM crew extended have to say about it. But anyway, I was just curious. It was something very interesting. And it did, maybe we'll come back to this in the second hour, but it did also remind me of a brilliantly produced track coming out of Baltimore from some grassroots activists and artists that updates the title song from Eyes on the Prize that we might want to, offer up as a juxtaposition to this thing too. So anyway, but anyway. Just something
I definitely got to check it out before I really comment on it, man. I just feel like it seems like, to me, and I could be wrong, it seems like we, and maybe this is just the design of, I don't know, the state propaganda or whatever the case is. It just seems like right now, a lot of things I'm seeing are jumping from like the 60s to now. Like there was a big ass gap or something in the middle. And it's like, I don't, I don't, I know where that gap is because we exist, but it's just kind of weird. Like, you know what I'm saying? I'm seeing a whole lot of shit like, okay, well, what happened to this, that, and the third? And my only true issue is, I'm hoping that folks are getting that proper political education and study, because there's so many, not only political prisoners, but so many freedom fighters who made serious moves and changes throughout that time. And many of those are quote unquote OGs that came up out of, the Black Power era and, the civil rights era, so on and so forth. And, and a lot of these cases came about during the 80s, but it's like, for some reason, it's looking like, well, nothing was going on between the 60s and 2014.
So, but that's an interesting question, like something that we could pick up also later, because I don't know if we can answer it now, but off the top of my head, I can't think of what are the defining texts or histories of that era you're talking about. I don't know. Are there any that really capture what went on? I know. Anyway, from like the 70s to the 90s, even.
Yeah, I mean, I think we all have to do a little research, but I remember a couple of books. I don't know if they did a great job necessarily, or they weren't as sort of well received for that time period, where I think people basically took it as there was a lull, or the attention was shifted from movement activity to other things, whether or not that was hip hop.
I would say
stand-in or place for it. But there are a couple of books that sort of mention different people's works during that time period that I think we should check out. And I'll try to get some names, and we could all do some research on some names. I just quickly did a little search. So this Eyes on the Prize series is produced by Patrice. I think it's part of her Greenlight deal with some of the other folks on Blackbird, which they presented themselves a few years ago as like the media arm, or the publicist arm of the movement, and they also got into some trouble in Ferguson also. But there's a couple of folks that I know from there too. So it's going to be a certain particular point of view. Doesn't mean, like you said, like it doesn't mean it's not well produced. Doesn't mean some of the history won't be good, but there definitely will be a particular point of view coming out of it. And so that's one of those deals that Patrice
it's definitely well produced, aesthetically, production wise. I like I said, I was not commenting on the politics or but
right.
Okay, that's slick. That explains a lot. I had not done any of that homework, so I appreciate that anyway.
So like you said, things exist, but we'll get back to it. But for now, we got the ear to the doctor. You know what I'm saying?
So let's
see what he talking about.
Yeah.
What's up, man?
Everything's everything. We up in here. It's another.
We ain't fixed the green screen yet.
Man, listen, man. There's some things going on. We working on that.
All right.
Matter of fact, we're working on it all morning. Still ain't happened, but we still good.
Like the mechanic in the car. I mean, like, I'm sorry, I stepped on your line, man. I stepped on your line. My bad.
Step on his line, man. You did.
We're gonna make it happen. We're gonna just do a musical break for the day. So, and I'm gonna put y'all onto a book. That's right. That's right, the doctor.
Lively up yourself.
do a little mix. Do it like this.
All we say to America is be true to what you said on paper. All we say to America, all we say to America is be true to what you said on paper. All we say to America is be true to what you said on paper.
Attention real quick. I just want to put y'all on to a book that I read back in college. It was International Women's Day the other day. This book right here is called Daughters of Africa, edited by Margaret Busby. Real dope. Got a bunch of sisters from all over the world that did poetry, did speeches, did excerpts from their books. Real dope. So check it out. Daughters of Africa. This is what you get right here, Black Power Media. Make sure y'all like, make sure y'all subscribe, make sure y'all tell a friend, and tell a friend it's on again. Right here every Tuesday through Thursday, 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. All right? And go to Black Power Media, patreon.com, and drop something in the bucket. Let's get back to the Remix Morning Show, y'all.
That was dope, good. Man. That was good.
Okay.
Folks don't know that was Dr. King's last speech, the line, the mountaintop speech.
That's right. That's right. Little edumatainment this morning.
Given in defense of organized labor.
Mm-hmm.
I showed my students the just to get a little warm up and a little teaser to get the mental juices flowing in class last week. I showed the clip of Reverend Billy Kyles, that famous clip of him in that NBC interview saying that, talking about how they were getting ready for dinner with Dr. King at his house the night he was assassinated. And then he says something like, and then as we moved out of the way so that they could get a better shot. And then he continues on with his story. Talking about how he was on the balcony next to Dr. King. It's a fascinating clip that people have used for a variety of reasons and a variety of contexts to explain a variety of things. But it just was something that makes the students and everybody in the room say, what? What did he say? Then you run it back. He's like, and we moved out of the way so they could get a better shot. And you're like, well, what possibly could you have been talking about? And what would anyway, so shout out to Dr. King, man.
Yeah, I think Dr. King is slept on, man. Definitely,
Clearly.
man. I think there's so many folks just, they drag him because of the fact of his younger politics or lack thereof. But keeping in mind that, again, the man was 39 when he was cut down, when he was assassinated. You know what I mean? So sometimes we have to reevaluate and we have to look back and we have to say, okay, boom, where was I at a certain age, and how off was I in regards to my politics, beliefs, so on and so forth. So, definitely shout out to King for making an effort. You know what I'm saying?
But again, my whole thing with King is it doesn't really matter to me. He was not assassinated because he was too soft, or because he cheated on Coretta, or because he may have, what the accusations about his PhD. That's not. He wasn't killed for it. He wasn't killed for whatever mistakes that any of us might have thought he might have made politically or otherwise. He was killed because he was advancing to a level of politics and radicalism that most people to this day still don't get to, much less at that time. And never mind his so-called heirs who keep running around here making deals with JP Morgan and whoever the hell else.
Auctioning off the Nobel Prize.
Yeah, arguing with each other and all that type of crazy shit.
And unfortunately, and clearly what we see with what his children and is part of what happens when a father is killed and a family is destroyed. But anyway,
speaking around the world, we know what to do around this time.
Yeah, let's do that. Yes, indeed. Yes. And by the way, everybody, I'm sorry, my bad, Kalanji, my bad.
No, we good. We together on this track.
Yeah.
Shout out to Andre 3000. Let me just say that. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, why is that? What happened? I was thinking of another collabo. But what was that for?
Nah, they just had that little beef situation. Kanye and Drake at it like crazy, and Kanye had Andre on his song. They supposed to be talking about their mothers, and he used it as a diss track, and Drake ended up releasing it or whatever. But I just wanted to say that Andre's, his pen game is still right, still doing what it do. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I read about that. I haven't heard the track, but I read in that they said they shouted him out for his pen game.
Somebody made a joke because Andre was saying how much he liked to work with different artists and all that kind of stuff, and so I said, nah, nigga, won't you like to work with Big Boy again? It's like, that's what we want to see you work with. Nobody else.
That's horrible, man. Don't do that, man, like that. That sounds like Kamal came up with that. What you think, Jared?
Probably.
All over Twitter.
But it's also
also true.
But it is also true. I would agree with that. And Big Boy is also underrated, for all the discussion that Andre gets. Big Boy doesn't get enough credit for his contributions. That's true.
Who's the better rapper, though? Who's the better rapper?
I'd probably still say Andre, but I'd have to think about that. I'd have to go back and really listen again. I'd have to listen for the purposes of this discussion because because again, someone, it gets a little more shine, and that's sort of the point that I'm getting at with the Biggie versus Big Pun.
Well,
somebody gets a little more attention,
Dre is
and then
probably
people think
the big boy of the group. I mean, Dre is probably the Biggie of the group, and Big Boy is obviously the pun of the group. So that's really
so. That would be my point, though, that the one who's more popular is not necessarily the one that's better, and we have to go.
But you
back
just said that he was better. That's why it makes sense.
But I also said, I'm probably making the mistake that people are making with Biggie versus Pun.
But probably not
more popular.
You're not making a mistake.
Oh, wow.
Okay. Got some beef going on this morning. You know what I mean? Light on light crime.
But speaking of rappers who have made a mistake, it is unfortunately, that this story just broke where Bambaataa of the Universal Zulu Nation, or at least formally or mating whatever, has officially been charged with sexual trafficking and prostitution of a 12-year-old.
Charged, or he's being sued?
Served legal papers. Sorry.
Okay. So I think somebody's following it. So he hasn't been charged, at least according to that article.
Well,
the headline of that article, with a crime. It looks like he was being sued. But that means, there's a civil lawsuit.
Sued, right? Sorry, correct. My apologies. My apologies. Correct. Thank you for the correction.
We prefer charge though, but go ahead.
Well, yeah, that's important. That's important. I misspoke. Afrika Bambaataa and members of the Zulu Nation are accused of trafficking a 12-year-old boy for sex, according to an explosive new civil lawsuit. In the midst of the explosive R. Kelly, they used explosive twice in this. That's not. I think that's. Forgive me for pointing it out. I think that's, as someone who is often guilty of bad writing, I think that's bad writing. In the midst of explosive R. Kelly racketeering and alleged sexual assault trial, hip hop pioneer Afrika Bambaataa has been officially served legal papers in his own sex scandal. The Bronx native and organization he founded, the Universal Zulu Nation, has been charged. Also, the organization has also been charged with sex trafficking and prostituting a 12-year-old boy to older men for 4 years. So, anyway,
that story's been out there for a while, and again, it could be. I haven't looked into the details of it, but we could be seeing another sort of, and maybe not with the fanfare, but another sort of arc in which maybe there will be charges, like similar to R. Kelly, where it took literally dozens of years for a case to be filed against him in criminal court for the allegations. This might be something that heads that way. So there's an underbelly to hip hop and all that stuff that we not just in hip hop, but music industry in general, life in general, that some of this stuff is coming to the surface, and it's sad and disgusting and so forth. So
yeah, that's so horrible on so many levels. You know what I'm saying? And I think what's worse is, I really hope that that whatever information is needed, if it is true, you know what I'm saying, which I've seen all types of different people come forward saying different things or whatever, that you're dealt with accordingly, man, because that is like, that's some crazy I don't even understand that that's nuts.
I'd also like to be, I'm more, because I'm also interested in this beyond, the individual accusation, but and forgive me if our neighbor's dog is showing up in the background here, but if I'm very interested in this line about the organization being charged or being included in this lawsuit. And I keep saying charged. I need to correct that. I need to be checked. Sorry about that. But being included in this civil lawsuit. And what should that be the case? Why is that the case? I'm very interested to know. I haven't heard any rumors beyond Bambaataa himself, so I'm not sure why, because I know that there are others who remain under the banner of the mighty Zulu Nation trying to do good work in various communities. So I'm wondering what that means for their work. What should it mean for their work? And again, why would the organization be included in this lawsuit? But
it probably,
obviously it's beyond hip.
No, I was just going to say, and similar again to the R. Kelly situation, where at least in the charges there is the sort of RICO statute, which is it's uncommon to be used in such a way. And so the idea, again, in the R. Kelly situation, is that there were folks who facilitated and coordinated his ability to secretly or to capture, hold underage girls for purposes of sexual activity. And it sounds like potentially that maybe maybe part of this civil lawsuit is making sort of a similar claim, that there were people in the Zulu Nation who acted in concert with each other to either hide, make happen, to destroy evidence and all that kind of stuff in some sort of coordinated way to allow this to happen. That would be the only thing I could think of that would be a reason why they would be included, or why the organization itself would be included. So again, I haven't read the complaint, but it sounds like it's probably operating on a similar level of something along those lines.
Yeah, it's a horrible thing, man. Especially when we talk about, I mean, just the culture itself, just from hip hop to just the meaning behind Zulu and the whole nine. It's just like, it's one of those things that just makes your head spin, man. It's like, look, so much shit going on, and here this shit comes along. It's like, it's crazy. But anyway, definitely, may justice be served. Because if that's true, man, that's not only disgusting, it's just it's, man, I can't even say.
Yeah, I mean, and again, obviously this is beyond hip hop, and this is about what happens in communities, and it could also be added that his own life of struggle, not as an excuse, but maybe encourages or leads people towards making bad decisions or repeating the cycles of abuse going forward. So all of these things at a broader societal level have to be addressed as well. But and then those of us who grew up in hip hop and grew up with Bambaataa, I mean, there is of a certain age, there is no separation between Bambaataa and hip hop, Bambaataa and our growing up. So I mean, it's on some level also just
it's crazy, man.
Whatever that would be.
Yeah.
But I
remember a few years ago, we were on a panel with him here in Atlanta. Matter of fact, Minister Server, shout out to Server, set it up. Bam, it came down here, and we had him marching on the whole police terrorism situation, and then we did this big ass panel, and it was like a 1-day thing. Server called me. He's like, "Hey man, can you get a venue? Bambaataa wants to do a panel around community issues." So we called this particular venue, and literally the place was jam packed, like overnight. And it was like, wow, this is Africa Bambaataa. You know what I'm saying? Because with us, like you said, coming up, he was like that first, when you talk hip hop, that was like Run DMC or whatever. It's like, one of the founding fathers, so to say, in hip hop, Soul Sonic Force, all that type stuff. That was like, that's an era that we came out of, that was a great era. So, to see this is just like, beyond disappointing and disgusting. It's just like, get it out of here.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So, admittedly not at this same level by any means, but keeping with the same theme of artists making mistakes, I did see this story and wanted to get your thoughts. Basquiat's friends horrified by Jay-Z and Beyonce and Jay-Z's Tiffany campaign, and I'm sure most of you have seen it, but this campaign of them taking photos in front of Basquiat's work. Of course, Jean-Michel Basquiat, the famous and is described here in this article, anti-capitalist artist, would have been appalled at his work being used in a photo spread where apparently Beyonce was wearing a $30 million Tiffany yellow diamond necklace, and Jay-Z sports a suit with Jean Schlumberg's bird on a rock brooch repurposed as cufflinks. Brooch. I don't even know what that is.
I think
brooch. Yeah, is that how they spell it when it's a brooch? I don't know what this stuff is, but I don't know what bird on a rock is supposed to be. So, but I'm assuming that's a Basquiat art piece of art and something that is just considered offensive. But anyway, I just, to me, it's perfectly consistent that they would do this because they've for so long made at least part of their career repurposing Blackness and even radicalism for their own very corruptive and capitalist tendencies, bourgeois tendencies. So anyway,
right, yeah, and I think Beyonce said something about she was disappointed because she thought that some research had been done, so on and so forth, to see if it was a blood diamond or whatever the case is. And we've heard Jay-Z rap about blood diamonds in the past. So it's like, with all due respect, man, get the fuck out of here with that bullshit. You know what I'm saying? It's like people suffer, and you all go to Tiffany's out of all corporations and thievers, and you cut deals with them, and you make it look like art, as if that's going to change the game. And it's when you talk about disgusting, yeah, it's right along those lines, man. You know what I mean?
But the other part of it that this story points out that I thought was interesting is that apparently, and I'm not familiar with the art world much at all, but apparently, despite what his own wishes would have been, that is Basquiat wanting his work to be put in museums where people could see it for free, because he got popular after his death. Most of his work got bought up and is in private collections, so the public doesn't have even the ability. So what Jay-Z and Beyonce here are doing is part of what the elite and the bourgeoisie do, which is they go to their private friends' collections and pose and take, have dining, dinner parties or whatever. But we, the public, who he would have wanted his art to be for, aren't even welcome in those spaces. And then they flaunt that wealth back to us, while claiming to represent us, and it's just pretty disgusting, and but consistent with what they've been doing.
No doubt.
And this is one of the few times where it feels like this is one of the few times where it feels as if folks said gotcha on it in some ways, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, and that's for all the issues with social media, there's somewhat of an equalizing force where it allows sometimes people to comment. Because when that ad hit Twitter, people started dragging Beyonce, dragging Jay-Z, because right away people got it. They were like, people that have done some research and were like, this particular diamond was found in such and such time period and era that definitely, dug out the ground by African hands. People died doing it. And again, insult on top of injury. To have the painting in there by somebody who is anti-capitalist for the most overt capitalist ad that you can ever have, which is to showcase these rocks that come out the ground, which really have no material value whatsoever, except for what we ascribe to them and or what the advertisers who tell us we need them to be whole subscribe to them, and then make us go out there or sort of get into our heads that we need it. It was like this interesting program on Netflix that was tracing some history of diamonds and how they became popular. They started off with the Boers, or the Beers, I think.
The Beers, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And they for instance, was at one point it was like less than 30% of folks used diamonds as a way of conveying some sort of romantic love in terms of engagement in the United States. And they started doing ad campaigns, and then got it all the way up to 90. Then they did the same thing in Japan, I think in the 70s or 80s, if I'm not mistaken, where it was really about 5%. And because of the advertising campaigns that they ran, all of a sudden, similarly, these folks started thinking that the only way to say that you're in love, that you want to show your love, is to buy something that's like $3,000 or $4,000, $5,000, $10,000, $15,000. And all that money goes, to these corporations. It doesn't go to the workers who are digging the diamonds out. It goes to like the middle management and the top management and the owners. That's who's reaping the benefits. And so these folks, like you said, like they use blackness back at us to profit off of it. And that's really what they're about, right? It's all about the money in the end. Because I believe truly that she didn't know it was a blood diamond, because I believe she didn't give a damn if it was a blood diamond.
Well, that's my point. To me, it doesn't, and not to say it doesn't matter, but to me, it's just as egregious, particularly in this moment, to wear something that,
ostentatious.
They're perfect. Especially given we're about to see a new wave of evictions, we're about to see a new wave of deaths from illness, we're about to see people who are being forced back into work, into school, coming up ill. We're going to see a whole bunch of nonsense coming. Never mind, the pending bubble that we've been following, and Wall Street on Parade, that blog and others who have been telling us there's this a worse collapse coming. So while all this is happening, while Biden is picking the next war, the next drone strike, they're coming out and chilling like this. I mean, that's where
people need to get fucked up. I mean, I'm just saying, because you know what I'm saying, just period. Because you might as well walk around with a child from Sierra Leone's hand, because of the fact that this is what happened. You know what I'm saying? You had body parts that were they were dismembered, they were murdered, so on and so forth. So if you're gonna flaunt it, just show the people what it really is. Let the blood drip from it. You know what I'm saying? Let the stolen artifact that you got from Basquiat, you know what I'm saying, like the museums always do, let's just say this is what we're doing. We're flaunting it. And it has to be broken down in a way that people understand that this is exactly what the fuck they're doing. Then once people get to a degree of humanity and common sense, then they'll say, you know what? I don't give a fuck what you rapping about. I don't care what you singing about. You are a traitor to your people. You're a traitor to men, women, and children who have died so that your monkey ass can sit up here and flaunt your quote unquote wealth. You are a high paid slave. These crackers said, look, here, we're going to give you X amount of money to sit your ass up here and help us to continue to build this economy. You know what I'm saying? Help us to continue to build our wealth. And they agreed to it. So, fuck them.
I just wanted to, I'm not
part
even
of my
playing
English.
the sound. I just wanted to get the visuals from the track that was running in the back of my mind while you were talking.
Yeah, Annie up.
Annie up. This is the perfect time. You see that man shining, come up off them goddamn diamonds.
Right. That's what need to happen, man.
Yes. Man, I mean, you got to be kidding right now. You coming around like,
yeah,
are
man.
you serious?
It's like, come on, you crazy? Are you crazy? Fucking crazy.
All
man.
Jokes, just having some fun, good folks in the morning. We hope Jay-Z and Beyonce stay well and stay healthy and redistribute, find ways to redistribute.
Yeah.
Because that's, let this be a distributionist moment for them. Because that's crazy. Because speaking of what's crazy and about redistribution in the wrong direction, I'm not even going to play anything from this. I just wanted to put the visual up from the story that I don't know if folks are following or have heard any about. But the prediction, I meant to have it up there. Let me that Trump is been caught with. My bad. I wanted to get that. My bad. I thought I had it said. Anyway, that Trump has been basically caught saying, he and his team saying that he's running in 2024. That it's happening.
Why you say caught? I thought it was a done deal.
The story that I'm referring to on that show, what is it, Breaking Points? Anyway, but was that they wanted to wait until some of this Afghanistan withdrawal stuff and all the backlash Biden is getting to die down. They wanted to let that marinate some more because that's part of the plan, to let Biden get more backlash from the deep state and elsewhere, all the permanent warmongers for saying, hurry up and find another war and don't leave Afghanistan. He wants Biden to continue to get all of that while everything else is going wrong for Biden too. His numbers are dropping, his popularity is dropping. Nothing that he claimed that he was gonna do, he's either done or it has not worked. So and so he just wanted to wait. So the caught part was it was just coming out a little early. But he's planning apparently to make the big announcement very soon. And I think he's gonna win. And because part of what the story was talking about was that apparently the geniuses of the Democratic Party are doing the same thing that Hillary did when she lost, and that is saying, "Come on with it, Trump, because we think we can. We think you're an easy person to beat." And meanwhile, we're not going to run on anything we're actually successfully doing for people. We're just going to run on we're not him, and that failed before, and I think it's going to fail again. So anyway, I just,
No, that's good. I mean, You know, I mean, shit. You know, hey, I'm a dude with chains around my neck with shackles. It's like, hey, do you want brass shackles or do you want iron shackles? You know what I'm saying? I don't want shackles, motherfucker. So, you know, yeah, this should be a very interesting thing. So, to the people, man, you know, urban survival preparedness. Get your survival preparedness skills up because we don't know what's coming down the pipe. You know, stack your food, stack your water. Do your push-ups, get healthy, and quit BSing out here, man, because it's about to get real crazy.
I think one of the interesting things for me about the whole inside sort of politics game is that I think Pompeo wants to run, and you know, he's unlike Trump, who's just an idiot and can be led places. Pompeo actually has an ideology, which makes him probably even a little bit more dangerous because of how sick he is. But you know, Trump did everything he told him to do, basically. So I think that cat is running. And on the Democratic side, I still think Biden's about to die in office anyway, between like now and 2023. And even if he doesn't, it's going to be so incoherent in a few years that he's not going to run anyway. And then that's going to be Trump or Pompeo, at least right now. That's what I'm thinking. Versus obviously Kamala. And so they're going to wreck her. They're going to wreck her not only, let's just say for race and patriarchal reasons. And so white folks in droves are going to be heading over for, again, even more so to vote for the Republican, but also because she's got no politics. And so she can't herself drive people to want to vote for her. Because she's basically someone who's blowing in the wind, right? And she goes any which way she thinks she can. So she's got no sort of force or charisma behind her to even gather folks to want to vote for. So I just think on the inside baseball thing is kind of interesting, like what's going to take place. Because I'm like, Biden's not running, and no one's going to challenge the person who's going to be the vice president. So she's definitely going to be the candidate, unless they just prop him up on some, you know, and stick their hand down his throat and make him talk or something like that. Otherwise, it's going to be her running. And I think the Republicans are thinking that's an easy mark for them on their side.
I
will go over.
I think folks are sleeping on Kamala. I think she's going to be a secret weapon for him because of the fact that right now, you know, I'm telling you, man, because to me, just like the whole Trump situation, who the hell thought Trump would win back in the day, man? I mean, we thought that shit was a joke. Kamala's going to come out the stable in about another 7-8 months, and she's gonna come up with some whole new shit because your man's gonna lose his mind. They're gonna get his ass about the way, and she's gonna turn into a one man wrecking team. So it's about to be real. It's gonna get real crazy. So I think that her reign of terror hasn't even begun yet.
I think they hope that, but I think she's so crazily unpopular everywhere that it's not.
The crazy part is what's going to get her over, though. But go ahead.
Yeah, well, I mean, maybe. I mean, but I don't, you know, but the point will still be that the Democratic Party will have done nothing, have helped nobody. And, you know, and by the time Trump comes around, you know, doing his thing, you know, with that machinery and what people I think really missed in the last election was the right wing, the right wing end of the internet got an undue amount, an unappreciated amount of attention for what it did to drive people to support Trump, while everybody was, you know, thinking we were about to have our first woman and all this other kind of stuff, and that it would be easy. And I think we're headed to something like that again. I mean, and the Democratic Party is some hot garbage, man. And, I mean, so it's like,
because remember, they were overconfident again. They were overconfident when they ran Hillary, who was a garbage candidate, they were overconfident with Biden. And you know, and Trump, he got more votes than any other Republican Party person. Probably got the second most votes in history, other than what Biden sort of eked through. But it was a closer race than what, again, the Democrats predicted and or expected, because they keep obviously for their own reasons going this sort of milquetoast politics of they're going to play the middle. And like you said, when it comes down to it, over and over again. Someone said the Republicans are able to continually push through ideas and policies that the majority of people don't like, but still are able to enact them into law. the Democrats who have popular opinion on their side in terms of some of the policies, at least that they claim to stand up for, but continually themselves lessen those policies, obviously, before they even get enacted. So you have a party that's not driven by any sort of great sort of upheaval of sort of I'm gonna die on the battlefield fighting for you. It's like, lesser two evils. Maybe I'll vote, maybe I won't. But Republican, those folks are seething to get back in office.
But it's worse.
And I'm telling you, yeah, go ahead. My bad.
Just the area of the plantation that we're on. Being in Georgia, it's like, I mean, I don't know if I could take another election here. I mean, the plantation is a plantation, but just in Georgia, it's like, this is like, it's a whole nother level of insanity. You know what I'm saying? Just with these white folks, with the black Democrats and all this shit, these Republicans, it's just like, woo. I mean, this is a serious clusterfuck just being in this particular region. So I don't know, man. I don't know.
And let me just throw this into the mix real quick before we get to the ear doctor, because I think this is actually related on some level. And I'm going to try to do this real quick. But I'm open to obviously critique and more conversation. But this new story that just came out in the Wall Street Journal is describing a situation where men are leaving college at higher levels than ever before. So at the same time where, as this article argues, a college degree is worth over the lifetime of an average person's working life $1 million more, as it's, meaning that if you don't go to college, you're more and more locked out of this. You're more than ever locked out of this economy. There is still this situation where men, and white men in particular, are leaving the universities at higher levels. And just one quick thing that I want to point to is that was said in this piece is, quote, "As a country, we don't have the tools yet to help white men who find themselves needing help," according to Dr. Jackson. Forgetting exactly who this is, Gerlando Jackson, Department Chair of Education Leadership Policy Analysis, University of Wisconsin. And part of what the story is saying is that with campuses becoming more open to the issues of gender inequality, sexual preference inequality, certainly racial inequality, men in general and white men in particular, and then as this piece shows, white men of a particular class are leaving colleges at higher and higher levels. So if, as this graph shows, if you come from a family that has a family income of under 45,000, white men have the biggest gap in terms of the drop in percentage, or the difference in percentage from white women, who are still over 60%, but white men drop of that class position are under 40%. And similar, differences occur across racial lines. But what's ultimately happening is you're going to have, as it relates to this point about the coming election, you're going to have more quote unquote lower class white men who are not going to college, who are going to be in the voting pool, who are saying we don't find it to be of any value, both in terms of our earning capability, or in terms of our sociological place, so to speak. We don't feel comfortable as men anymore. White men don't feel comfortable. White men of a certain class position feel even less comfortable and are not going to college, and it's causing an even greater divide in the country than we've seen before, which I just thought was very interesting. Something I want to look more into, going forward. Keep an eye on. So anyway, I think that's going to play a role in the next election and help Trump as well.
I think it's one of those things.
Shout out, Chris. Thanks, Christopher.
I don't know if like the cost is weighed in terms of how
yes, it is.
The cost of college is down.
Yes,
which is part of the reason I think everybody's reconsidering college as the way to financial, some sort of financial.
But not women.
Whatever. Huh? But
not women though.
Yeah.
Women, and we didn't spend enough time, but women are either increasing or holding in terms of relative to each racial group. Yeah. So it's really it's men that are being seen as and the cost is just one of the issues. But yeah,
it was interesting also is that it felt like white men have always outpaced, let's say, black men or black people, but if we're doing the sex comparisons, black men who graduate from college still have made less money than white men who don't go to college on average. So the fact that they don't need to go to college necessarily, like you said, to still make an income that helps support them, and if they're in sort of a traditional family situation, them and their family, still bodes to more for me. Some of it is the sort of the propaganda of white angst and the realness of demographic shifts that are happening, which again is part of the white angst of like, it's not, is that they don't, even less than the rhetoric of like what's happening. I think it's more like the handwritings on the wall that your asses may not as easily as before. Let's put it like that, because it's not, there's no such thing as a minority who can't control. They can still control vast amounts of resources, how the country is ran, and all the rest of it. But the perception thereof of somehow that they are not in control. And for some of those working class whites who are never in control, but they like seeing their people in control, basically, and feeling like they had some level of control over the society. I think that also is driving some of the angst, less to do with maybe why people are going to college, but that also is driving folks to even re-up more, I think, in this whole sort of Republican, strong right wing, overtly open, racial, sort of racist nature that ever since, again, the Great Recession and Obama, white folks have been sort of tripling down on their racism once again, as they've done historically.
Well, shout out to all the racist white folks out there. May you die a horrible death. Speaking of that, we bring the brother their doctor up to calm this conversation down. It's, you know.
Speaking of white horrible death, did you bring up the ear doctor?
Transition. Oh my God. Hey, I was gonna come and sing, and I'm so glad I went to Morris Brown, but anyway, I had to say this about college, man. For me, the biggest thing I got out of it was connects, lifetime friendships, and at the same time, customers. I mean, you got a whole bunch of people. If you a hustler like me, you got mad people that got money right around you and ready to spend it. So, yeah, I got to get my hustle. I mean, I'm in the middle of Morris Brown, Clark, Spelman, and Morehouse.
That's true. There's some middle class folks.
So,
I would say too. You know what? I was kind of fucking around, but I did a lot of higher education shit. And after high school, I was going to do that. I was going to be a man, get a job, and all that kind of good stuff. But I wound up going, one of those bad stories of you had a good friend who he wasn't going to go. We decided not to go to college, and then he got popped, 3 months later and stuff like that. And that was one of the things. It's like, all right, I'm just chilling around at I'm a stock boy. I need to do something with myself. So, I would credit college too with not necessarily politicizing me, but giving me access to libraries that allowed me to really sit there and read and study and learn, because I wouldn't have had access to those books otherwise if I didn't go to school. So I give it credit for that. I think a lot of stuff I learned, politically speaking, not in my classrooms, but because I gathered with other like-minded folks and we did political education. But college definitely gave me some opportunities in terms of like to sit in a library and dig deep uninterrupted, right, for 3 or 4 hours at a time. Just be like, yo, let me study.
Hey, Kamal, there's a term called making a long story short. Look it up. All right, we're gonna get into the next break. Let's do it. The remix. Welcome out, everybody, to the Remix Morning Show. I go by the name of the Ear Doctor, and this is Black Power Media. I'm gonna give you a little mix, get your mind right. So let's do it. Toussaint L'Ouverture Bird. That's right. Same one is from Haiti. Got his middle name. With that said, he was a great jazz musician, American rhythm and blues trumpeter and vocalist. He was also a sideman for many jazz musicians of his generation. He was also known as a rare bebop jazz musician who successfully took funk and soul and brought it into jazz. So as a band leader, he was also influenced the great career of Herbie Hancock. So check out your man, Donald Byrd, because he's a beast. And with that said, let's take it back. To the Remix Morning Show.
I met Donald Byrd once in grad school, speaking of college. Shout out to the Africana Studies and Research Center under Dr. James Turner. No, this was after Mama's Biscuits. I was already in grad school.
Okay.
And but got to sit in the room and listen to him and talk a little bit about, you know, what he thought about, you know, music and hip hop and working with Guru and all kinds of stuff. It was pretty dope. And I don't know him, but shout out to the grumpy folks. He was a little grumpy that day, and you know, and shout out to the grumpy folks out here.
You'll hear a lot of Donald Byrd, and Premier uses a lot of Donald Byrd if you listen to Gangstar. So there's a lot of samples from Donald Byrd.
That's why I said working with Guru.
You know what's funny? Something else that's reached the topic of somebody I was talking to. They was like, Guru was garbage.
As a rapper?
His flow, they say it was like preschool. Listen, I'm like this. He had a marriage with the beats of Premier. So his flow worked. It was like a jazz. It was like his own instrument. Has his whole voice. It was his own instrument. Yeah, you know.
I've agreed with that analysis in the past. There was some Gangstar I liked, but there was always I couldn't get through a whole album with 3 songs in a row. Be like, all right, I'm about to fall asleep on it.
I was yeah. please handle that, please, sir.
Monotone. He was monotone. Let's not
wait a minute. First of all, I agree that Guru was not at the level as a lyricist that Premier was or is as a producer. But I would have never fallen asleep on an album because it had primo beats. That alone, plus it had other features. Yeah. Guru was never my favorite. No disrespect, rest in power, all of that good stuff. He did have that iconic sound. And I thought he did some good work, you know, but he was never a potential, like he was never a revolutionary rapper. He was not even necessarily a progressive rapper at all times. and he wasn't, I think, highly lyrical. I mean, he was not. He's in nobody's top 5, and Premier has to be in your top 5
50?
as a producer.
Top 50.
You know what's funny about that?
No way.
I feel the same way. I feel the same way about 400. CL Smooth. I think that I think Pete Rock. I mean, I would prefer Gangstar. I would prefer Gangstar over Pete Rock and CL Smooth. You know what I'm saying? And I love Pete Rock. You know, and CL's cool, but it's like it wasn't.
Is that another verse?
That's the worst.
I think, yeah.
Is that another verse?
CL Smooth was better than Google B.
I don't know, B.
Pete Rock and CL Smooth versus Gangstar.
That's right, baby.
First of all, that's my 2 favorite producers: Pete Rock versus Premier. Let's do it. That's number 2. That's it.
I like it. Step into the arena.
What you want to do? Exactly.
Step into the arena, and I'll take either side. I think I could win with either side.
Okay. I mean, I think if you're talking about just underground classics and whatnot, and folks who came out the camp, I would say Gangstar. Gangstar Foundation had a lot of nice underground joints, from Group Home to Freddie Fox, aka Bumpy Knuckles. Who else? Somebody else I was just thinking about. J. Rue the Damager.
I was going to say, there is somebody else too.
When you hear that coming in,
it's dope.
Yeah, but you can say the same.
All-time classic. That's like
it's definitely classic.
Top 10 track.
But play the first bars
of 400 tracks.
No. Play the first. You could do that. You would get the same reaction in the club if you played the beginning of Mass Appeal.
Facts.
Yeah, I mean,
you start. Come on now, boo.
Not Mass Appeal.
The Wick.
Because with that song, everybody is reminiscing. They put a lighter up in the air. That's like one of those songs. Like, yo, I feel this. Mass Appeal just out there. Don't, man.
But I'm saying in a club, the crowd is going to do the same thing.
Who's going to take the weight?
We'll see.
Not with that.
That's the next verses.
Yeah.
That's the next verses.
Next verses. Pete Rock, CL Smooth versus Gangstar. Yeah. I agree.
Capitalist on them.
Say it again.
I said, let's get capitalist on them and trademark that. Versus.
About to get sued.
We need
quick.
Yeah, we need to. Hey, in all honesty, if Swiss Beats and what's his name? Who's the other one? Who the other? Aren't they? Is he still the co-owner? Or did they sell this already?
They sold it. I'm sure they probably got to have a percentage, but yeah, no, they sold it to the white boy we was talking about. The company we talked about a few weeks ago.
Oh, that's right. I forgot. That's right, because they're selling crypto. That's right. I had broken the whole crypto versus
crypto maniacs.
Go back and check that. We broke the story right here. The remix.
The remix.
But I would actually think it'd be kind of funny if they tried to sue us over verses. That'd be
probably wouldn't be a good idea. They definitely help us out on promotions.
You might be called judgment proof. You might win a lawsuit, but you ain't getting that money.
Yeah, nothing.
Well, just real quick, man, I have to say, speaking of lawsuits and people trying to get money, I was not happy to read this because I have once upon a time was a Washington football team and Clinton Portis fan. And I hate to see that he had gone through some financial issues some years ago. I don't know if this is related to this. But I thought he was on his way, to rectifying that in a way that might not get him a charge. But apparently, and what's ultimately messed up about it is that the biggest con and scheme in the world is the healthcare industry. But in this minor instance, if these facts are at all correct, it seems like Clinton and some players were getting over on the NFL, getting and the fund that's supposed to go to football players who are not playing anymore, but who still have medical bills. They're supposed to be able, under the Gene Upshaw NFL Player Health Reimbursement Account Plan, get up to $350,000 for health care related costs if it's not covered by their insurance after they're playing. And apparently Clinton Portis, the former big time running back, and some others got involved in a scheme to defraud this fund, and will now have to pay back close to $100,000 and may be facing up to 10 years in prison. And apparently what they were doing, he and some other players, was filing fraudulent claims for medical treatments that they did not need and did not receive, and pocketed the cash. So on the one hand, I'm like, Roger Goodell is sitting up there making $40 million a year, doesn't have to hit or tackle anybody. These owners are making billions. But if there is a fund that's supposed to help players, and you're ripping off the fund that's supposed to help fellow players, I feel like you're not ripping off the right wing of the thing. Like, I'm not philosophically opposed per se, but that's not the pool of money that they should be going for. So
I'm a little on the same side as you. It's like, I'm not mad at the try. I'm mad at who they trying on, kind of thing. I'm more mad about that. I was like, like that man dedicated a lot of time and energy. Obviously, he got paid, but you can't get back some of them broken body, them broken bones.
No,
you can't get the full use of that stuff. After all that time you spend, and I forgot how many years he played, but on average, like a running back only plays like 3 years or something like that.
No, Clinton was over 10, I believe, and he played hard years. I mean, I watched that was before I quit watching, and I watched him play every week, and he was running his ass off and was punished for it. So I want him to get way more than what he got from this fund. I just want him to not get it from this fund. That's all I'm saying. Anyway.
Yeah, you penny pinching right now compared to what you could be doing. Yeah.
And again, we've talked about how, lives we've lived before we become the upstanding citizens we all are now. And even in those moments, I like to think I adhere to a certain philosophy. And I was not going after my fellow, strugglers. I was going after those who, had something to give. And
seeking reparations, right?
I have, to this day, I have zero problems faced with the conditions. No problem with it. But I would not have gone after the pockets of some of my fellow strugglers. That's all I'm saying. And that's what I mean by that.
So, Jared, so is it safe to say that if need be, you can dust the ski mask off?
Absolutely.
But you got to take the Mama's Biscuit patch off the top.
You got to take the Mama's Biscuits patch off of it, all of that stuff. I mean, look, I fully understand why people end up doing what people do. I just hope and wish that they would do it in slightly different and sometimes safer ways when it comes to dealing with other people who are similarly struggling. And that's all. So like, I just hate to think that the NFL could then turn around and tell somebody who deserves the money, oh, we don't have it because Clinton and them ran off with it, or come up with some other reason not to come up off of much more. Again, Goodell is making $40 million a year, I believe was the number. I mean, and he's just the commissioner. He's not doing anything. It's like,
and the NFL is a nonprofit, correct?
I think it is. It still has that classification.
Really criminal. I mean, like, you make
a socialist organization, though. I mean, I'm sorry. Go ahead. I mean, with themselves, they do what I think the owners do with themselves. What society should have done writ large. They take the pool of wealth they all generate collectively, or that is generated for them collectively, and they redistribute it evenly, regardless of the team and regardless of how much each team is doing on its own, to make sure nobody suffers. So among themselves, if that ethic was expanded, I think we'd be on the right track. But they look out for each other, but not anybody else. So even the idea that only up to $350,000 per player after you play, when the league consistently generates billions of dollars, and just off of the television contract alone guarantees that the owners are going to make their money, never mind before anybody starts watching and paying and this and thatting and clicking and betting and all the other things that are going on. There's so much money being generated. It's ridiculous that anybody or any of the communities from which all of these people come would have to be where they are. So this is anyway.
Welcome to America. Home of the thief and the slave. Yes.
So this piece for me was what I thought was pretty like, so as an interesting response, so to speak. I did not know this, but apparently earlier this year, and the story has just sort of or is breaking anew. China had eradicated in its country all severe levels of poverty. So I want to just play a short clip of this interview conducted yesterday or published yesterday from our good friends at Breakthrough News, Rania Kalik and Tings Chak, for just a brief summary of what Ms. Chak here has produced in a report that we can look at very quickly also in terms of how China has done it and why I think it's relevant not only for our after party concept, what we were just saying, in fact, even about oh man, I just lost my train of thought. My bad. What we were just talking about in terms of all of this stuff. But anyway, we'll come back. Anyway, let me just play this and I'll get myself together. But just check this out.
Watching and listening. I don't think people in the West really grasp just how huge it is that China managed to eradicate extreme poverty. So just to start off, can you give our listeners and viewers a brief overview of what this actually means in practical terms? Like, how do you define poverty, extreme poverty, and what does it mean to be lifted out of it? And then we can go from there.
Thanks, Rania. I think that's a great way to get us started. Maybe I can start with the story because I quite like stories, and ultimately this is about, people's stories of, real people who get lifted out of poverty. And I got to meet one person in the process of doing this study. Her name is He Ying, and she's herself a poor peasant from the countryside in the southwestern province of Huizhou, which is historically quite a poor, very ethnically diverse region of the country. So we walked around with her for a day. She's now a leader of the Communist Party of China in the local chapter, as well as of the Women's Federation in her community. And so her day looks like she wakes up at 7:30 in the morning. Mm-hmm. She drops off her kid at school, which is 5-minute walk away. She lives in a community where she is also one of the leaders of, one of the 12 leaders of 18,000 people. In that community, there are 3 medical centers. There's a child care center. There's a primary school, a middle school. And also right next door is where her mother-in-law lives, and her, as well as her brothers and sisters and nephews and nieces. So just to get a sense, her life now looks like this. But just a few years ago, that walk just to drop her kid off to school might have taken her about 2 hours each way, just walking. A community health clinic or the nearest hospital might be, a day's ride away on buses plus walking. And now she lives in a community where those things are accessible to her. So in practical terms, with someone for her life, it is actually accessing those material things and being able to live in a community that with her kids and her mother-in-law can thrive. She says, I live upstairs, I work downstairs, and
All right, so I just want to play that little clip because what I'd also like to show very quickly is from the report itself, which was published a little bit earlier this year on the tricontinental.org website, the Eradication of Extreme Poverty in China. And just very quickly to get to the point, and because this is a very in-depth report, but what I thought was very interesting was at least these couple of things. On February 25th, 2021, the Chinese government announced that extreme poverty had been abolished in China, a country of 1.4 billion people. This historic victory is a culmination of a 7-decade-long process that began with the Chinese Revolution of 1949. The early decades of socialist construction laid the foundation that was deepened during the reform and opening up period. During this time, 850 million Chinese people were lifted themselves out of poverty. That is to say, 70% of the world's total poverty reduction took place in China. In the most recent targeted phase that began in 2013, the Chinese government spent 1.6 trillion yuan, or $246 billion, to build 1.1 kilometers of rural roads, bring internet access to 98% of the country's poor villages, renovate homes for 25.68 million people, and build new homes for 9.6 million others. Since 2013, millions of people, state-owned and private enterprises, and broad sectors of society have been mobilized to ensure that despite the pandemic, China's remaining 98.99 million people from 832 counties and 128,000 villages exit absolute poverty. Just very quickly, while China has been fighting poverty, the rest of the world, especially the global south, has experienced a downward turn. United Nations agencies report a great reversal in poverty elimination outside of China. In 2020, over 71 million people, most of whom are in sub-Saharan Africa and Southern Asia, slipped back into poverty, making the first global poverty increase since 1998. It is estimated that the economic crisis accelerated by the pandemic will drive a total of 251 million people into extreme poverty by 2030, bringing the total number to over 1 billion. That China was successful in combating poverty in a time of such reversal is neither a miracle nor a coincidence, but rather a testament to its socialist commitment. This stands in contrast to capitalist societies' indifference to the needs of the poor and working classes, whose conditions have only worsened during the pandemic. The study looks into the process through which China was able to eradicate extreme poverty as a fundamental step in constructing socialism. So I only bring all of that up to quickly say that while the world is going backwards, China, through public policy, planning, and a sort of clarity of vision, have been able to do something for themselves that could be duplicated elsewhere, were we to have the kind of political power and control over public policy that I think we should be struggling to get, that would determine the course of a society that could go in this direction. And if they are able to do what they've been able to do, certainly this country and others could be pushed to do what they have done. But we would have to break wildly with what we are all currently engaged in. I just thought that was a fascinating. And then lastly, by telling the story as the author of this report was saying in that interview, by simply redirecting, and this report talks about relocating people so that they don't have to commute so far. So putting more medical services or healthcare closer to people. Bringing them, some of the technology that can be beneficial to them. All of this without any sort of wild sort of, redistributionist, scary, whatever, has helped people greatly. And any of us who have to do any of these commutes with our children or otherwise could walk 5 minutes to a school that we were happy to take our children to, and live in a home with 3 generations of our family. I think many of us would find an ability to, improve materially, economically, etc., and beyond. So anyway, I'll stop there.
No, I think that I think there's a lot of ways to look at what's been happening in China as both a model and also a little bit of a cautionary tale, right? Because post Mao's death, China did decide to go to open up its economy and have more private enterprises. And at one point, China allowed itself to be sort of the factory of the world, as they say, right? It would build everything from toys to zippers to whatever, and it used that as a foundational part of its economy to, again, begin to open it up and bring more resources, revenue flow into their country. And then later, of course, China also decided, like I completely agree with you, through planning, to say, all right, we've done this layer, but we don't want to be, no offense to Mexico, we don't want to look like Mexico, right, per se, where there's a bottom, and then and we're not making anything other than the toys for the world. And so we want that high end shit. We're going to challenge European markets and producers for other, not only sort of more high end, but technology and other products, because we think we can form that base. And I think, even as Marx said, capitalism, and again, this is a state form of capitalism, is a dynamic economic engine. And I think they use that economic engine to do what they've done to actually get folks out of poverty. And like you said, to do it in a planned way. But they've also, as that's been happening, of course, created I think China now has more billionaires than any other place. And now they're going to have to start dealing with even the sort of inequity of wealth that gets created. So even as they're lifting, will that bottom hold, right? Will that continue to happen, particularly now with resources? They now have their own capitalist class, and will they be able to control that class, or will that class start to dominate? And similar to America for white people in particular, right? Because we were never included in any capitalist expansion here. But will that mean that as the rich become more powerful in China, that they begin to subvert their own planning system, so that they will continue to extract wealth and again start trying to challenge whether or not, oh, do people need pensions? Do we really need all this health care for these folks? Is it necessary to have all of these schools and daycare centers? So, that's going to be the dilemma. I mean, there's other things that are, of course, going on in China, but I think in terms of the lifting people out of poverty, I think they do supply a model that, again, in the 60s and 70s, a lot of the African socialist nations, either their socialism was overthrown, internal disputes, which wrecked experiments of expansionist state policy, which has led us to sort of the corrupt figures that we have today, which are in Western pockets, who are only servants to capitalist expansion and do little to nothing for the base of their own society.
Really like to see how this plays out in the next 10, 15 years. I really would like to see how it plays out. But definitely a good model, lifting folks out of poverty. We need to lift folks out of poverty here in Atlanta, not just the U.S. I
obviously, first of all, I don't pretend to know as an expert what's going on there or how this is playing out. And obviously, there's a bias in what I was reading from. But I do like that political use at minimum can be made here and elsewhere around the claims that are being made, because even if there are flaws in the claims, even if there are flaws in what their project is going forward, as Kamal, you laid out, we can at least start by saying, look at what they claimed on paper to be doing. Whereas here, there's not even that claim. I mean, there's no, it's like there's a response of no, we're not, there's not going to be a mandated minimum wage even or increase, or no, there's not going to be healthcare. No, there's not going to be COVID relief of any meaningful, no, we're not even going to maintain a moratorium on evictions. So while all that's happening here and worse, there's at least some group saying, hey, there has been an attempt over the last 70 years to, and in that interview, by the way, and in the document I was reading from, they do define and explain what it means, how they define poverty, what it means to, lift all this out. So, I mean, it's a much more nuanced, but I also think fascinating discussion.
Yeah,
so
I think China's a case study. Again, China's a case study for what, with its many contradictions, even it's still a case study for what I think African nations should have been doing or could have been doing. Obviously, and again, there's some differences, but exactly for what you said, the natural resources in some of these African nations are superior to what the natural resources of China is in a lot of ways, but the political the inability of the West, because once China overthrew sort of the Western nationalists who wound up going to what's the little island off the side again named Taiwan.
Taiwan,
right? What they went to Taiwan, and China was able to, in some ways, defeat Western imperialism, kick out the British. Some of that took longer with Hong Kong and so forth, but get the British to give back their colonial trophies. It gained control of its landmass. It began to implement different attempts at economic development. Some, again, far more traditional socialist attempts, and then a somewhat of a switch over at least in their estimation, to try to lift people out of poverty or bring more resources to China at a faster clip. Unfortunately, a lot of the African leaders, again, either be through some corruption, Western imperialists feeling that the African nations were still weak enough, as opposed to a China, to still mess around with their economies and their politics. Most of the nation states in Africa have not sort of taken that path to move away from private enterprise run rampant, as opposed to state control in how planning and resources are distributed, even to these companies, which a lot of them are partly state owned and private, right? Which is different than the public-private partnerships you have here in the United States. So all that is to say this, it's a great case study for moving economies forward, as you say. And even on the ground, their idea of like on the ground implementation and leaders on the ground who are part of the party, who get to sort of try to dictate how resources are set up in their individual communities. Unlike our systems here of neighborhood associations, which dictate nothing but applaud any private development that comes into their community, because they feel like that's the only development that they can make happen, because they have no control. They have no way of accessing the larger government entities to say, we want this money put here, there, and there. Instead of government entities here are just responding to capitalist interests of like, this is where we want to put our Starbucks. Like, what do you mean? It's like it's a working class neighborhood. Fuck that neighborhood. We want to put our Starbucks here. Oh, look, Walmart's coming in. They need you to do some eminent domain to put that Walmart there, and we're going to get these people these minimum wage jobs. That's how development happens in the United States. And China decided to make sure that it planned out how development happens and how these communities have access to resources. And similar to Cuba, right? For all the poverty that Cuba still encounters, Cuba has made sure that education, healthcare are staples of how resources are distributed in Cuba in a fair and somewhat an equitable way, to make sure that the mass amounts of illiteracy and issues of poverty, as other Latin America, other similarly situated Caribbean nations have faced, does not continually take place in Cuba.
I mean, look at the way they plan things out here. I mean, the Chinatowns, you know what I'm saying? You go to all these major cities and they have this shit organized. Whereas black folks in America, I mean, you know, Africa towns is like some type of foreign language. It's like you're talking insane. You know, you have Chinese restaurants in damn near every hood that you can go to in America. You know, no fear. You can go to some of these in Georgia, the most ass backward country town you could find, a Chinese restaurant. You know what I'm saying? And it's like no problem. So when you talk about them planning shit out, I mean, they're no joke with their shit.
That's but even that, I mean, but even that history has a specific relationship to federal policy both here and in China. So, you know, and I'm not saying you're doing this, but often this gets mistakenly recast as black people's inability to set up businesses, and the Chinese are so this and that. But no, this is public policy. This is again my point, that we don't have access to. So if you know, it's not that, you know, anyway, it's the Chinese government in relationship with the U.S. government going back to the early 1900s that said, if you want to come here, you have to be doing it under the auspices of business. Otherwise, Chinese people can't come here. So the Chinese government backed a lot of these businesses and helped them as a way of getting Chinese people out of the mainland and into this country. And yet here we're told, no, you all have to do what the Chinese did. All right, well, we don't have an outside force advocating on our behalf in conjunction with federal policy working on our behalf from this country. We don't have that. So yes, there's a lot of planning and there's a lot of benefit to that planning that we here don't have access to, for sure.
Right. So perhaps these politicians, while we're running up and down talking about the Democratic Party and the Republicans and all that shit, these motherfuckers should be gearing towards some of that shit, because we are toothless tigers right now. It's like, it sounds good, but you know, I mean, what do you have? Congressional Black Caucus? I mean, come on. You know, let's.
I mean, and that model, and they're based on the model of the post, going back to what we were talking about, the post assassination of Dr. King. we are on the model of we get money from corporations in exchange for we support you, and you just put some black people on your board or in your commercials, you know, and all of that, and hire some, you know, black subcontractors. That's their model, and that they're not on a model of you know, any kind of nation building or whatever. So yeah, for sure. Yeah,
I came to America and all I got was this T-shirt, that type shit. In bad shape, but yeah.
Anyway, yeah. Speaking of fly T-shirts, and coming to America.
Oh Lord!
Straight out of Trenton.
Straight out of Trenton, the heavyweight boxing champion of the ghetto. Here he is, ladies and gentlemen. Straight out of Trenton. Whoa! Shadow knocking all them shadows out. Wow! I just saw 2 shadows fall. Yeah.
Word. Yo, we're gonna go to a Black Power Media flashback. Give y'all a little freestyle from somebody y'all might know. So let's go.
Okay.
All right. Remix. Yeah. Once again, welcome out everybody to the Remix Morning Show. I go by the name of the Ear Doctor. And please make sure y'all hit that like, subscribe button, and keep tuning in. We got a whole lot of stuff coming for you. So with that said, I'm going to go ahead and give you a little flashback to a renegade culture program that shows a very known MC that y'all know that came and did their thing. This was actually on our show, which was Put On Your Chucks, Grab Your Pearls, Kamala Rise, Oakland to the White House. And that was with David D. As you know, he is a radio personality over there on the West Side. So let's go ahead and get to it real quick. And let's get to the man named called Speech.
All right. Now, everybody quiet on the set. My man Speech going to kick some bars for us.
Word up. I'm going to do this track that's from the Don't Fight Your Demons record. It's called Moses. And I just wrote it pretty recently, so I'm going to try to spit it. But it goes, I wrote acre for acres. Then I bought more than 10 acres. That's how I fight against these racists. Even my third eye had LASIK, so I've been seeing 2020 since 93, just covering the basics. Everyday people in the public fans screaming, we want more. I love it. People every day during the encore. Back home, I open up my barn door. John Deere tractor, pull it out. Riding more for the mule and 40 acres that never made it around my house. Slave away in my indoor office. Offices is for bosses. Any winner has had losses or falsehoods poured all over them. Don't get lost in the sauces. I asked Jesus, can he save me? I felt myself drowning in these ladies, breaking marital bonds for quick relations. Took my wife in the road to nip temptations. I am no longer a Rolling Stone like Brian Jones. No large bodies of water in Georgia. Large bodies of water give me euphoria. Menominee River Parkway off Concordia. Milwaukee, Wisconsin lakefront down in Memorial is sacred soil. Nothing you know of me has been a front. Not an actor or activist, no stunts. And everything that I teach to the music is roots. My quest is love within the booth. Not about what I've done, but what I do. Not married to the game, but to the groove. Not married to the fame, but to the tune. If you were to ask the same from the who's who, our best is a disconnect like Bluetooth. To my true blues, it's not new news to you. That's all. I just give you.
Yeah. Like I was saying, so that's what it is. That's a throwback right there for one of the Renegade Culture joints. So go check that out. The Speech from Arrested Development. Yeah, let's get back to the morning show, y'all.
Hey, it was nice when I thought, you know, we had a chance when Arrested Development was still around and they were in the mix, even if they were not one of, you know, I would never say I was, you know, their biggest fan, but I just appreciated that they were around, added some balance to the hip hop scene, you know.
Yeah.
Anyway,
definitely.
Shout out to Speech.
I don't know why.
I don't know.
but Hiram just said that I'm about to say this speech is better than Big Pun.
I was about to say Guru, but
hey yo, man.
Now that shot's fired.
Just make sure everybody is in attendance on September 19th at 8 o'clock. So that just make sure everybody's there and don't hide. Understand. No virtual hiding.
That's right.
You know,
throw your guns up. Yeah. Cats on the left getting left.
Y'all.
Anyway,
oh man, I thought Hiram, I misunderstood you, my man. I thought you represented a better part of Connecticut, man. But you know, yeah.
Shout out to Hiram, man. You know Bridgeport where it's at. That's where he moved to afterwards. Arrested Development was dope back in the day, man. Speech still kicking, you know what I'm saying? But
yeah,
I mean the boldness during that particular time period. You know what I'm saying? I think that when you talk about quote unquote conscious or revolutionary rappers, they're often left out of the circle. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? A lot of times folks, you know, they're not really mentioned. But you know, they was coming with it, man. You know what I mean? So that's what it is. But anyway, what's good, man?
Before I know we had a couple leftover stories before we wrap up this morning. And just so folks know, the remix is of course back tomorrow morning at fuller strength. Even without me, I think you'll be at fuller strength. I won't be here, but the rest of the crew will be. And then I will be back Friday with Brother Kaaba, where we will be talking about Jamil Al-Amin with Arun Kundani, who has done some recent interviews with him. We'll be talking about that, among with some other good stuff as well. Talking some Ward Churchill and 9/11 as well. So hold it down for the boom bap
Ward Churchill.
Yeah, not with him. I'm not saying he's coming on live, but we're gonna be talking about Ward and his work.
We got to get Ward on, man. You know,
his roosting chickens, no doubt. I didn't want to promise anything in advance, but you know what the attempts will be made. But just in case, you know, we'll be talking about his work regardless, and some recent new reflections on that work as well. So,
no doubt. Yeah. Tomorrow, Jackie and Kim will be in the building as well. You know, joining us.
Yes, indeed.
You know, Kim will be finished walking the dog by tomorrow. You know what I'm saying? Shout out to Kim. And
shout out to Kim Brown.
Jackie be live and direct as well. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, indeed.
Dealing with some of these knuckleheads we have around here. But yeah, man. Yeah.
So but, you had a story, you had a leftover for us. I know you had one.
Man, I ran into this story, man, and it kind of, you know, it really hurt my feelings. It was a situation, it was a hit and run this past weekend. And usually, you know, that's not the necessary. I mean, not the necessary. We don't usually talk about local situations, but this took place in Knoxville, Tennessee. And this lily white woman right here, she was driving too close to a brother by the name of Dwight Woods. Dwight Woods was driving a 1994 Honda Goldwing, which is a motorcycle. And she ended up hitting him, and she drug him for about 300 feet. The motorcycle, she just kept going for about, 300 yards. And then after, you know, he was released or whatever, she just left. So they found wherever she was at or whatever later on. And, you know, this happened on Friday, I believe. And of course, this was Labor Day weekend. On Friday, she hit this man, hit and run. And on Saturday, she was bailed out. So this man, I believe he's 64 years old. You know, he perished. He's deceased. You know, she ran him over with her 2016 BMW X3 SUV. And like I said, drug him for, 300 yards and just left him to die. You know, like it wasn't anything. Didn't turn herself into anything. They went and picked her up and, you know, brought her in for leaving a crime scene when she knowingly hit someone, some craziness like that. And like I said, out the next day, you know, so this is a situation that's going on in Knoxville or Lenore City, which is not too far from Knoxville. And I think that, you know, we have to do something to organize around this because of the fact that I'm, so many cases like this come and go. We have these white folks that just literally run you down, and it's business as usual, slap on the wrist or probation. I mean, the fact that she, did this and left the scene is just like, I mean, no thoughts of any type of humanity, man.
Well, I mean, clearly she was scared and felt threatened.
Of course,
man she had just run over and drugged, so she had to leave. So we have to take that into consideration, Kalonji. And when you
silly me, right?
Talk about I mean, we're here as a team. Nobody's silly, but we're here as a team to help each other get through these stories. So I just want to, now, I mean, I agree with you, and I hope that there is some organization around this. And I mean, if we need yet another focal
call of action, right?
Yeah,
right.
I mean, this is horrible. I don't know.
And I looked up reports on it, and everything's just so basic. It's like it's not even a big deal. It's like under the rug. And I ran into someone sent me a message on Facebook, and that's how I got turned on to it. And was telling me that this woman is out and what happened, so on and so forth. So I just wanted to really just drop it on folks to, remind us of where we are, during this particular hour in this country, So, yeah, barbarism as usual.
Absolutely. Well, there was another act of barbarism, as some would call it, that took place the other day. This time, someone has defaced a Detroit mural of Eminem one day after it was completed, which, again, similar to your last story, this is horrific, and I find this,
it's horrific that he has a mural.
I disagree with you, Kalonji. I think it's horrific that anybody would take and do this to a mural and deface Eminem.
Isn't he the greatest rapper of all time? I mean, he's the greatest rapper of all time, I thought.
Easily.
He's
the greatest rapper of all time by far. And so that even after just one day and all that he has done for Detroit, I mean, he has, raised that city on his own shoulders and lifted it out of its morass. Never mind Motown, never mind the Pistons, all of that's, thumbs down, past tense. It's all about M and 8 Mile. And I don't know how dare somebody. So you talk about getting out there and having a focal point for struggle. This needs to be dealt with and addressed. And I hope people are out in the streets protesting immediately, and that the promises to fix this are taken up quickly, because this is I'm just thoroughly offended.
It's one of those occasions where I need my glasses, because when I was looking at it from distance, I thought there were little dicks on his face, but then I think they're chickens, if I'm not mistaken. So I was like, what the hell is on his face?
Oh, are they chickens?
I think they're chickens. They got beaks on them. Look at them.
Hey, man, listen. I thought it was Dylan Roof with blonde hair, but you know what I'm saying? If I didn't know that you said it was Eminem, I'd have been totally confused. He looks like every white boy that grabbed a gun and ran up in some shit. You know what I mean? So that's how I feel. But,
Well, isn't that his story too? Isn't that his story too? Eminem, running up. Anyway, look, man.
Oh, yeah. Anyway. Say that was little dicks. Yeah, you're out your mind.
Listen, we cannot have hip hop icons and greatest rappers of all time deface and demean like that. It's just not acceptable. In 2021, we need to have more respect. Put some respect on his name, on his image.
Mount Rushmore, him, Guru, and Big Pun, the greatest rappers of all time.
Nah, man, just him. He's that good.
He's that good.
It's just one on Rushmore.
Whitenesses.
And then that's it.
Anyway. I don't even think I know 2 Eminem songs, man. That's sad. I know I'm gonna get my Limp Bizkit award taken from me. But anyway, yeah, that's ridiculous, man. But anyway,
I remember that first one because I remember the shock. The first, my name isn't that the one?
Okay, we got Slim Shady.
Because when Dre brought him out, and it was like this
He's okay. I just didn't like the lauditude of like, oh my God, this dude is the greatest lyricist or the greatest rap. I was like, whoa, calm down on this dude. Even they had some stuff like that, like black artists coming on, and that's when you know when they really set it up. When the white folks, when they produce their programs and they get black MCs to come on and say, but you know who's the greatest? Slim Shady. I was like, get the fuck out of here. How much you getting paid for this? Yeah, that's the thing that bothered me. I was like, yeah, he's an all right rapper. Some of the songs are cool, but it was like the greatest of all time.
I think his worst rap beef was him versus Nick Cannon. I think that was like the
no. What about he knew his place? He knew his place. He knew there's certain things he couldn't get away with. He can't have no real beef with nobody.
Who, like, Nick Cannon or saw
either one of them. Pick one. But I actually did see the diss video that Machine Gun Kelly, which I think is a good rap name for a white boy. I think that's a really good rap name. I saw his diss track against Eminem only because I had not ever heard of him, and I was like, he's dissing Eminem. I want to just see it, right? And so I don't know any of the context. I don't know what was going on. And it was, it was all right for a diss track, I guess. But I just liked that somebody was going at him. I just wish it would have been like a legendary black rapper. But I'm sorry,
I wanted a white boy rapper to explode. It was dude from Everlast. What was his name? Is
Everlast?
That's his name. What's the group he was in? What was the group?
The
House of Pain.
Jump around. House of Pain. I was like, my man should have exploded. Yeah, better lyrics.
To me, the dopest white boy would be from Run the Jewels, LP, because his production and his lyrics is especially his production. His production is crazy. You know what I'm saying? But I think he's a dope artist just coming out of. He's one of your Brooklynites too, Kamal. You should know him.
I have not actually listened to them closely.
Not one. I've not listened to not one Run the Jewels.
Hey man, Run the Jewels is dope though.
No, people were saying, I mean, they're huge. They even had a FIFA soccer kit on that international, mega game.
It's just that weird combo. I mean, I just that weird Killer Mike. I just assumed was like if he was going to have a black partner in terms of the whole, not like his private life, but like in terms of the public. Whatever, like it seemed too well planned. So even though if people like it, sure some of the shit is dope, but it just seemed like a little corporate move to be like, I'm gonna team up this dude who does a lot of positive or gangster black lyrics or like some other shit. I'm gonna team up with a white boy. Felt like it was a smoothing of the image for me.
No, LP is He's the MC out of Brooklyn back in the day. Now, he literally was the OG.
You're gonna get a man with that Brooklyn.
I mean, he's the underground MC, man. You know what I'm saying? He was actually the OG of the group. So that's but Kamal's not into hip hop. I'm sorry, I digress. But anyway,
I'm not into LP. My bad. That means
what was that Company Flow he was rolling with? I think was it Company Flow.
I don't honestly know. I did watch,
I have to bring the ear doctor back on for that.
Man, I don't remember any of this, but I did watch a video some time ago that was purporting to be the history of that group because I didn't really understand. And it was, if I remember correctly, there was some sort of pre-planned packaging involved. It wasn't necessarily, it wasn't a directly organic type of thing, but that's sort of standard for music, for the music industry.
No, it was, I'm assuming it was like they grew up together or they met each other like at the spot. I'm sure it's probably way after the success and it was like some corporate
dude. Told you, man, from Brooklyn, man.
If we teamed you up with this white boy from Brooklyn, we can make loads of cash off of this. You know what I'm saying?
To the folks in the audience and whatnot, as you know, Kamal's not the hip hop guy. So when we do this versus Big Pun and Biggie, I'm gonna love to see who Kamal's picking. You know what I'm saying?
No, that's cool. I'm not. I mean,
lyrics?
I'm a regular listener. I'm not like digging through crates for nobody. But I know that white boy would Run the Jews is trash. But I know that.
He said he never.
I stand by that statement. I stand by that surface view statement.
Anyway, move right along. What else we got? We got 5 minutes left on the tip. on the
We
ticker.
got 5 minutes left. Again, for my part, again, I just wanted to shout out BPM again and the remix crew and all the mix-a-lots and the remixers. I'm still holding on to the mix-a-lots a little bit.
I'm still holding on to remixes, man. You know, the mix-a-lots.
Just a little bit. I like them.
Still remind me of Sir Mix-a-Lot. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's all right, you know. And I look forward to checking out the show from the road tomorrow. And,
shout out Minister Server. I know he's in the chat. His no show drops on the 12th, September 12th, this Sunday, I believe. You know what I mean? So I can't think of the name of his new show. Server, let us know. I'm sure you can let us know in the chat. But there's a dope new hip hop show that'll be dropping. We have a few shows that'll be coming this quarter. So be on the lookout. You know what I mean? Keep hitting those buttons, bing, bing, the bong bongs and the bing bings. You know what I mean? And we got some flavor coming your way. That's what it's about around here on the remix.
Speaking of which, speaking of flavor and Kamal's DRS group, I honestly have to say I am very late to the passing of Craig Mack. I did not know Craig Mack is not here anymore.
Oh man, this is when I should take you off the screen.
I just watched the documentary about him. I didn't know anything about his religious conversion at the end and all this other stuff. I didn't know about any of that stuff.
Somebody did a documentary on Craig Mack. I didn't.
Well,
even know
little
that.
YouTube mini.
Oh,
YouTube,
my bad. I was going to say.
But that's
was that worthy of a documentary? Flavor in your hair? You know what I'm saying? I don't know if that's a documentary. It was like, is a dermatologist a part of that? I don't understand.
He had a bigger career, and Puffy kind of messed him up, like he did a lot of people. Like
Puffy messed up Craig Mack.
I'm gonna sit back here, man.
By delaying the release of one album and then promising to do another one that never got done, something like that. There was some, and I didn't even know that he and Biggie didn't like each other like that.
Oh, Craig
I
Mack?
didn't know that. Yeah, that they had a little bit of an issue. I didn't know any of that. I'm late to all that.
I mean, he had 3 dope songs.
He had 3?
Yeah. Can I get down? Get on
that was
down.
hot.
Yeah.
Then he had Flavor in Your Ear. And of course, the Flavor in Your Ear remix. 2.5. Would you?
True.
2.5, brother.
True.
You know what I mean?
I'll give him some credit for it. You let everybody else rap on the song.
Hey, man.
That's terrible.
WWPD, what would Puffy do?
There it is. Conscious
again,
Zone.
Conscious Zone.
5 Sunday.
Minister Server. You're gonna be dropping. I think right before comes on before Sundays. On Sunday. I mean, so be on the lookout. Let's see what Minister Server talk about. It better be dope, man. We've been waiting for like 8 months.
He better have some hip hop history that I can't blast him on. You know what I'm saying?
Okay, better be harder than time.
Let me also quickly shout out May in the back holding it down for us today. It was good to have.
I could tell May's here because the transitions are going like they're supposed to. Not like yesterday.
Yeah, yesterday was a little bit.
Yesterday was trash.
Although don't hate. I don't.
That was you. That was you doing that. Oh, you did good. You did good.
I don't agree with whoever it was. It was not trash. It was not trash.
You did good, brother. You did good.
Respect the production. Anyway, peace, everybody. I'll see you all Friday. And I can't wait to check out Boom Bap Breakfast tomorrow, man. Good luck.
Hey, listen, I was going when you said you ain't know Craig Mack died. I'm out of here. Remix Morning Show.
I am. Flavor in your ear.
Yaba.